Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 636th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. And as Mark Twain cabled from London to the press in the United States after his obituary had been mistakenly published, the rumors of my death had been greatly exaggerated. But I have taken a few months off. I cannot say it was planned. It was kind of a perfect storm of things. I had to move off of HubSpot after 9 years. Thousands of pages and posts and landing pages, and it's still not, I don't know if it'll ever be complete, good grief. But I'll share that story later. Fortunately, I had some redundancies built in with my CRMs and automation. It's been kind of a spring cleaning exercise, so that's been good in that regard. So that had to happen by October 29th. So I was making that happen, and I'm on 6.5 weeks now of a cough. I'm almost over it. Good. I was sick for about a week and a half, but then the cough just lingered, and it was just terrible. And then it was the holidays and just working on the site. And after 10 and a half years, I don't know, I just needed a little break. So I was kind of uninspired as well with the guests I keep getting pitched. I think it was Seth Godin. He said all marketers are liars, and marketers ruin everything. And it's true. You have all these agencies popping up, charging hundreds or thousands of dollars to get you on a show. So I'm just pitched all the time, So I don't want to bring you just anybody, just to, fill the void. So I took my time, took some time off. And so here we are. I've got Baldwin, a good dude. I don't want to steal his thunder. He had a unique approach. I was actually I was contacted by his assistant on his behalf, I think way back in August. We juggled schedules a bit back and forth. I missed the first email. So fortunately, he's got a system in place. They reached out again. I gave him my calendar. It wasn't a good time. We stayed in touch, and I don't know. I think it was maybe December. We got in touch and synced up for early January. I was hoping to get this out. See, I still got the cough, and it only happens when I speak. I'm heading to jiu-jitsu, and I don't cough with the strain. Just something with the vocal cords. But so we stayed in touch, got him on, and here we go. So. Like I said, I was hoping to get it out last week. Just a whole new system, a whole new process I'm working on, new recording platform using sessions, this new hosting platform for my site, this newsletter, Beehive, having to learn some of the nuances of that platform, how to embed media. It's all different. And who says you can't teach an old dog new tricks? It does take us longer to learn the tricks, though. So thanks for sticking with me. Things are still alive and well. The Inner Circle is popping. Working on a new Roll on Kings event for jiu-jitsu and sales training. Looking to do that in the Dallas area, just northwest of the DFW airport. A friend of mine I've known actually since early 2000. He's a third-degree black belt rugby player, Army communications officer, entrepreneur. So bring some good perspective, well-rounded perspective to the event. So stay tuned for that. I've got some other guests lined up. I'll be doing some monologues as well. Get back into doing some book reviews. So stay tuned. 2024 is here to stay, and we're going to own it. All right. If you haven't been to my website in a while, go check it out. It's still thesaleswhisper.com. Working on some new branding, but you can sign up for the newsletter there and see what I got going on. All right. Now let's bring on our guest. Baldwin. All these accolades. I looked you up, all these books and sports and all, but I got to say, as a salesman, you had the coolest outreach. And so we're going to tell that story. But first of all, welcome all the way from Miami. How the heck are you?
Oh, thank you for having me on. Hopefully I can live up to that introduction, but I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Man, I'm good. Yeah. So you I get pitched every day, twice a day, 22 times a day, email, phone call, spam text, LinkedIn messages. I don't even check my spam DMs on the other platforms. I
Right.
check every now and then, and I just cry and just walk away. But so I get an intro from your assistant, and there's a link says, "Hey, Dre made a video for you," and I'm like, "Yeah, I've been there, done that." And it's all these generic videos. Hi, I really like the work that you're doing. Let's stay in touch. But it was like a 3 or 4 minute video, and you're like, Wes. I'm like, well, okay, well, what? And then right there at your desk, dressed nicely, making me look bad, man. I'm gonna have to go get a tie somewhere. But like like you did your homework. I'm like, all right, let's have this dude on. So I appreciate the effort and the hustle. And how did you come about following? How'd you develop that approach? Because like I never get that, dude. And I get thousands of messages a week. Nobody really personalizes anything.
Well, good question. And what you just said there is kind of part of the answer. So I remember when I first left from being an athlete to getting into entrepreneurship, I wanted to get on platforms because people have audiences. So how do I get on those platforms? And I used to do what people are still doing to this day, which is you had your copy paste emails, send them out to a bunch of people, and hopefully you get some responses. But I realized probably around 2018, 19 that wasn't working anymore because everybody was doing it. Right. And it's the same thing that we used to do actually in basketball. We would send, if you were in between jobs and the phone wasn't ringing, you would send emails out to agents. You would send emails to teams directly trying to get on. But the problem is after that became ubiquitous, everybody was doing it. So I've always looked for what can I do that everyone else is not doing? And they call it doing things that don't scale. So I knew that, especially in the interview space, that hosts often want to make sure that any guest they bring on actually knows how to conduct themselves on camera, because someone can look good on paper, but then you get them on the show and they freeze up. They can't really talk. They're not really giving you good answers, and the interview becomes garbage. So I saw that a lot of hosts were saying, well, okay, if you want to have you on the show, we need you to give us like a 1-minute video, just hear you talk, just to get a feel for your energy. And I've done a few TEDx talks, and I noticed they all do that as well. They want to see a video so they know that you can talk. So I said, why not just answer all those questions in one and just make a video and just send it to whoever the person is that we're reaching out to. And I know that someone actually sees the video and they see that it's not what you just said. It's not this one video that we sent to 1,000 people. We actually make that video that's not AI that I sent you, Wes. I actually made that video specifically for you. And if we do that, someone looks at it, we'll at least get a response. At least they will respect the fact that we took the time to make that video for them. So for me, it's always, what is my competition not doing that I am willing to do? And often it's just a matter of a little bit of extra effort.
Yeah. But I know people will say, okay, I mean, even if I'm super efficient, that's a 10 to 15 minute process per prospect. I need to reach hundreds or thousands of people. So this won't work for me.
Mm-hmm. So for me, first of all, I've been creating content since 2005. So I have the proverbial 10,000 hours under my belt. So if I send you a video that's 4 minutes long, it took me 4 minutes. That's a 4-minute process. So I do it.
Yeah, well, but I'll play devil's advocate. I mean, you got to look the guy up, maybe spend a minute or two, even a minute or two, 3 minutes, skim in website, social media about what does this guy do. Okay. It's got to render. You got to load it to YouTube, copy and paste it, or an assistant does, right? Yes. But you have to look up the info so you know what to say to me. So even if it's 4 minutes, let's say 4 minutes of research. Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
Yes. So we have a process. So we have a whole process. So we have a process of, okay, I can go find, let's say I go find the Sales Whisperer show. I send that link over to my assistant. My assistant can put all the information in the CRM. She knows what information she needs to grab. When it's time for me to make the video, I know what I need to look at. I know what I need to know about this person. That takes me a couple minutes. Then I go record. Now I notify in the CRM back to my assistant that the video is ready. She knows where to go grab the video. Again, we have this all down to a science of the process. She knows how to go send the emails. We got all the emails already ready. And then she just goes through the process. And if we get a response, we know how to respond. We know how to get it scheduled. We know how to get it on the calendar and all of that. So it is a process, but once you have the process in place and you're doing it right, then you can just, you can repeat it and it can work over and over again. Same thing as anything else in business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like how many will you do like in a day, or like do you batch it and say, I'm going to do 30 in a day, and like that's good for the month or good for the week?
No, 30 is too many. So I'll record maybe
10,
5
20. Yeah. I mean, but you'll batch them, right?
I record maybe 5 or 6 each day. So I like to do them each day because let's say if I was to do 100 today, then all 100 videos I'm sitting there looking just like this. But tomorrow I'm gonna have different clothes on, right? I have on different suit, different tie, different shirt. And my energy is different. I mean, by video number 98, I don't know, it might not sound as good as video number 2. So I figured if I do about 5 or 6 each day and we're consistent over the course of a month, what are you looking at? Let's say there are 5 business days. Let's do 6 in a day. What is that? 5, 6, 30. It's 120 a month. All right, that works. And we can cascade them, because what if I was to make 100 and we send out 100 reach outs and 50 of them respond? Well, can we even fit 50 interviews on the calendar? All right, so we got to keep that in mind as well. So as long as we keep it consistent, then we can keep it. If we keep the calendar full, keep it steady.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I tell people all the time, like even just testing a new offer, you can't go crazy, because
Right.
the only thing worse than not having business is paying to market and generate leads, and getting so many, then you can only handle so many leads, right? But what is your response rate? I got to imagine it's pretty good.
If we're sending out 5 or 6 a day, about 30 a week, we are getting pretty solid response. I've trained my assistant well enough that she doesn't even have to tell me when somebody responds. So actually, all I got to do is look at the calendar and I just know what's coming up next. So every once in a while, she gets a response that she doesn't know what to say, how to respond back. Then she tells me, but I've trained her well enough that I don't even have to know what the responses are. She knows exactly what to do based on how people reply. But we do pretty well. I think the response rate is pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your background, you were a professional athlete, right?
Yes.
How did you go from professional sports to TED Talks and writing 33 books and being on the sales podcast?
Great question. So first of all, I've always been a salesperson at heart. Didn't know, but I always knew I was a salesperson. And I always liked the concept. But when I first heard of the concept, which was about, so go a little bit more background in the story. I have a 4-year business degree. And that matters because about halfway through my college years, I responded to a bulletin board posting that said, make unlimited money in the summertime. And this is before college athletes can make money. So I needed money. So I responded to the bulletin board post, Wes, and it was a network marketing company, what this guy was doing. And I went to a couple of the meetings and I noticed, first of all, that what the speaker on the stage was talking about, mostly he was just breaking the false beliefs that people had about money and business and how to generate income. And the things that he was saying made perfect sense, but none of my college professors had ever said any of those things. And they still didn't, even when I finished school. So that made me kind of curious, number one. Number two, he explained the concept of, well, if you and another person are working at the same job, doesn't it make sense that if you perform better than them, that you make more money? And I said, hell yeah, that makes sense. Does that open me to the concept of making money based on performance, not just based on time? And he was commission and selling and all of those things. So that was the second thing that I said, okay, there's a job like that. And that's the exact kind of job that I want to do. And then third, he introduced me to some new concepts like personal development, which I didn't know was a thing. I was always into reading books, and they used to call it the human psychology section in the bookstore. Then they expanded it. Now we have personal development. And also I got introduced to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and other just concepts about money, Richest Man in Babylon. And these books were talking about different ways of generating money besides just go to a job, put your time in, clock out. So when I read Kiyosaki, I said to myself, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play basketball first, but after basketball, I'm going to do this, because we know being an athlete doesn't last forever. It's fun, but usually by age 30 or 40, it's done. So you still have a whole other half of your life or even more to live after that. So I already had that in the back of my mind. So how it moved to the next thing was I started putting videos on YouTube when I first started playing ball. So my pro career started in 2005, and I started a YouTube channel that same year. Now, nobody cared about YouTube at that time. It didn't matter. It was just some random hobby. But about 5 years in, 4 or 5 years in, I was unemployed from basketball. Phone wasn't ringing, and I started to focus more on this internet thing that I had going, which we now call having a personal brand, or being an influencer. Before we were using those terms. And I started selling my own products to basketball players. So they were $4.99 a piece. So I had one for dribbling, one for shooting. Those are the first 2 products that I ever personally created and directly sold. So when I made my first sales doing that, Wes, that's when I said to myself, I can do this forever. I can't play basketball forever, but if I can take an idea and turn it into a real thing and sell it, I can do that for the rest of my life. So that was the start of the entrepreneurship. Now, the other thing that happened was the players who were watching me on YouTube started asking questions not only about basketball, but about mindset, because they found out my background is only played 1 year high school ball, and I played Division III college ball, which anybody who knows sports, all the pros come from D1. I came from D3. So most of us don't even think about playing pro, let alone actually do it. So when they knew my background, they saw that I had made it pro. They wanted to know what was the mindset behind a guy who would do that. And that's when I started extracting the mental stuff that I was using for basketball and just talking about that by itself, isolated from the sport. And that's when people who didn't play ball started finding me online and saying, man, Jerry, the stuff you're talking about, I'm not trying to play basketball, but the mindset stuff, that applies to everybody. And I'm not even an athlete. So that's what planted the seed in my mind. When I get done playing ball, because again, I had Kiyosaki on my brain. When I get done playing ball, how can I be an entrepreneur? What can I do outside of the realm of basketball? I said, I can just take this mindset stuff and I can teach this to everybody, because it looks like everybody wants it and everyone needs it. And at the time, I didn't realize that not everyone thought like this. I thought everyone thought the way that I was explaining it, but I realized that it was actually pretty rare, that people they understood people want to be disciplined. They want to be confident. They want to be mentally tough, but they didn't understand. They couldn't explain it. I had the ability to explain it. And that's my superpower, my ability to break things down and explain them. So when I stopped playing ball in 2015, that's when I wanted to get into the speaking business, because I've been doing all this talking on YouTube, and someone said, why don't you do professional speaking? Didn't know that was business, but found out it was. So I started by just applying to go do TED Talks, and I got chosen for a few of them. That's how I started doing TED Talks. And then I just made more courses for ball players. I started making courses for mindset. I started writing books, because now self-publishing was ubiquitous. So that's how all this stuff kind of started. It was available on the internet. It happened to happen at the same time that I was looking for this stuff. It all became available. So making your own courses, building your own audience, direct to consumer, using the internet to just have a direct relationship, no gatekeeper in the way. All of that stuff happened at the same time that I was looking to do something like that. And that's how I got into it. So that's how we ended up here, long story short.
That's badass. Why were you so driven early on? Because a lot of times, the adage is, meathead jock, not into school.
Well, first of all, mom's an educator. I don't think I told you that. So mom's an educator. Right. So she was big on making sure that my sister
don't anger mama.
Yeah, exactly. So she was big on making sure, or both of my parents, and my mom was pretty much in charge. She was making sure that my sister and I got good educations, because my mom was on the educational ladder climbing, but then she got pregnant, with 2 kids twice. And she dropped out of school to make sure she could raise her kids. And she didn't get her degree until I was in college myself. So my sister went on to do well academically, better than me. She became a professor. And then I went into sports and entrepreneurship. So for me, as far as the books that came from that, and when it came from, there's just an internal drive, I've always been a competitor. That's why sports was great for me, because I'm a competitive individual. And that drive was, I just knew I wanted to do something. I wanted to be somebody. And I knew I didn't want to do it the traditional way, because again, I was looking at the adults around me growing up. They didn't seem excited to go to work. They talked about work as I have to go to work, not I get to go to work. So I didn't want to go to school, get a degree, and then go live that life for the next 40, 50 years. It didn't seem interesting. Didn't seem fun. So when I got introduced to that network marketing opportunity, I said, okay, now here's how I can go be somebody. My performance is commensurate with my results, my rewards, and I'm doing something that I can actually be excited about, because I can go out and I know if I do a great job today, I get great money, as opposed to the same amount no matter what I do. So it all kind of came together at the same time in the same way.
That's interesting because I was in the Air Force and I got introduced to network marketing when I was still on active duty, and I'd never knew much about it. And
Mhm.
so I got into personal development, all those same books, all those same people.
Mhm.
So it's interesting how that, the MLMs and all, they get a bad rap, and sometimes it's earned. But I mean, for the average person,
Yeah.
I mean, where else are they going to get that education and motivation? Because most of them are just miserable in their jobs. And,
Right.
if their bosses were better people, that people wouldn't be so anxious to join an MLM.
Right. Well, you got to remember who their bosses are. Their bosses were workers just like they were. They just did it for long enough and competently enough, and they didn't piss anybody off. They became a manager. All right. So they're not really that much different. They just been there at the job longer. And also with MLMs, network marketing, yeah, sometimes they get a bad rap, and sometimes people do them in wrong ways. But network marketing is one of the most consistent red pills that turn people onto entrepreneurship. Because if you don't have a family member who was an entrepreneur who took you under their wing, or, I mean, like I said, I went to college, got a 4-year degree, and they weren't teaching any of this stuff. When I was in school, I don't know what they're doing now. It depends on what school you go to, of course. But if you don't have anybody to kind of pull your coat and say, hey, how about this? Here's a different way of doing it, then you may never get introduced to that. So that's what network marketing does. And also, the buy-in is relatively cheap. What does it cost? $300, $500 to start your own business. And they give you the whole support system. You can go to the meetings every week. You have the calls you can hop on. You got the systems already in place. All you got to do is follow the process, and you got other people who are already doing it. So again, as far as a support system to learn the ropes of entrepreneurship, I don't think there is a better opportunity than network marketing, where again, you have the support, you got the system, you got the products and services already in place. All you got to do is show up and just do what they say. That's it. So I don't think there's a better opportunity than that. And by the way, I have no network marketing opportunity to offer anybody in the audiences. So I'm just saying, I believe it's a great way to get started for anybody. And it was great for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm checking out one of your many websites, but workonyourgameuniversity.com, right? That's your main one right now.
That's our main focus.
Do I need to get some tattoos, man? I said work on your game.
Yeah. You said, do you need some?
Do I need some?
I don't know. It's personal choice. It's on there forever, so I don't know. It shows up more on fair skin than it does on dark skin, so you got to make a wise choice.
So I got 7 kids. Our friends back in Texas have 5, so we have a running bet that the first kid that gets a tattoo, then that family has to buy the other family dinner.
That's an expensive dinner.
So my kids are like, "Can I get a tattoo?" I said, "Yeah, you can get a tattoo." Well, it's just for the parents, right? I said, "Just add $150, $200 to the bill and go get your tattoo, because I'm not paying for that dinner."
That's right.
That's so funny. So man, that's awesome. And it's so different. How, just because I'm personally curious, how did you make that leap? How did you get found from a D3 experience to the pros?
Good question. So at first I didn't get found. When I first got out of college in 2004, the first thing I did was go get a job at Foot Locker. I was an assistant manager. And then I worked at a gym called Baldwin Total Fitness selling memberships.
Sure.
They're out of business now, not because of me. I sold a lot of memberships. But that was my first year out of college. I just worked those 2 jobs. And then I went to this event called an exposure camp. You familiar with those, Wes? Heard of them?
Kind of, yeah.
So an exposure camp's like a job fair, but for athletes. So people who don't have a job, but they want a job, you show up, and a bunch of you show up all trying to work your way into an opportunity or talk your way into one. But in exposure camp, you actually play. You don't just talk. You bring your sneakers and you play. So 200 basketball players who all think we're good enough to play pro. We all come to one place, and for 2 days, we play games against each other, trying to prove that we're good enough to play professionally. That's an exposure camp. And these are pay-to-play events, so you pay to attend. And they'll take anybody's money, but you pay to attend. And hopefully you impress somebody, because the audience are coaches, agents, scouts, managers from around the world. These are destination events in the basketball world where they come to look for their next employee, basically their next talent. So I went to one of those events. It was just a 2-day event. I had to negotiate with my boss at Baldwin Total Fitness to get the weekend off so I could go to the event. Played pretty well there. Had to be back at work on Monday. And that's how I got a good scouting report. I needed some third party validation that I was good. So I got a good scouting report and good footage. Now, I did not sign a contract on the spot. I had to go back to Philly because the event was in Orlando. So I had to go back home, and I started cold calling basketball agents. Now, usually in the entertainment world, the agents call the talent. The talent's not calling the agent. But I was calling the agents because nobody knew who I was. So I had to sell an agent on representing me. So I called about 60 basketball agents. If they had a phone number, I called them. I just Googled them. This is, again, summer 2005. Of the 60 who I called, I was able to get in touch with 20. Of the 20 who I got in touch with, they all said, okay, let me see what you have. I sent each of them a copy of my footage. Now, this footage was not a link. It was not an online link. It was a VHS tape. You remember those?
I do. I'm older than you.
Right. So I had a VHS tape and I had a double-decker VCR at home. So any listeners who's under the age of 30, you just Google VHS VCR, you see what these are. So it's basically YouTube, but it's physical, if you want to explain it. So I would make copies of my VHS tape and I would send those out in bubble mailing envelopes out to these agents. And of the 20 agents I sent footage to, one of them responded and said, hey, I will represent you. I can help you get a job. And that's how he got me my first job in late summer 2005. That was in Kaunas, Lithuania. So that's how I started my pro career.
So this was a U.S.-based agent, but he got you overseas.
That's correct.
Nice. How'd you like it?
Oh, it was amazing. There's no job in the world better than being a professional athlete. Yeah. I mean, people know who you are. You're playing a game for a living. You're getting paid. You're traveling. You're traveling the world or the country, at least, depending on where you're playing at. And again, you're playing a game. And a long day of work is 3 hours. So there's no job better than that. And I tell people, being an entrepreneur is 10 times more work than being an athlete. So it is the best job in the world if you can get it.
Are you a guard or forward?
A little bit of both. I'm about 6'4", so depending on where you were playing and who else was on the team, whatever they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you put your entrepreneurial stuff on hold, or were you still hustling and grinding, nights and weekends and off season?
So I kept the entrepreneurial thing in the back of my mind from the network marketing experience. I knew basketball was the full thing that I wanted to do. So I was just doing YouTube. I was putting videos on YouTube and I started blogging. I was also blogging before YouTube, but YouTube kind of got more of an audience than the blog. So I would write articles and little blogs just about my experiences because I'm traveling around the world. I'm going to these different places all through basketball. So all of my friends back home, it was interesting to them because I was doing something that most people don't get to do. So that's how I started to get my writing game. I was just getting the experiences by writing a lot and blogging. And then I started writing articles about how can you play overseas? Because I got a lot of basketball players following me from YouTube and just because I was playing overseas. So I started writing about that. And that's where I kind of started with the how-to stuff. And it wasn't until 2009, my career started in 2005. It wasn't until 2009 that I really started thinking about how can I make a business out of this attention that I'm generating on the internet. So that's when the entrepreneurial stuff kind of kicked in.
Is it decent pay overseas?
Well, it's a gamut, but I tell people there's no ceiling and there's no roof. So it depends on where you're playing at, depends on what you can negotiate. It also depends on your background, your pedigree, who your agent is, what team you're on. But even on the highest level teams, like I've had coaching clients of mine who play on highest level, the Euro League, which is the second highest league in the world. And even these guys are waiting months to get money that the team owes them. So you never know when you're overseas. It's a mixed bag.
Yeah. And you said you were in Lithuania?
That's where I started. Yes.
Yeah. And do they speak Russian there, or do they have their own language?
They have their own language, but I bet most of the people there speak Russian as well. So It's Lithuanian is the language, but they come from the Eastern Bloc, so they probably also speak.
Yeah. I was trying to remember, like, is it like the Cyrillic language or alphabet? Like, is it based on Russian, or is it totally different?
Yeah, you're taking me out of my lane here. I don't know. I couldn't explain any of that to you. I never learned a language. So most of the young people, if they were under 30, they spoke English. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and that's what I found with Europe. Mm-hmm. Americans, we know, I don't know, barbecue, English.
Right.
That's about it. Those are our languages.
Yeah, but our media, our entertainment is so popular worldwide that a
Yeah.
lot of the younger people, they just learn the language just by watching our stuff.
So how long did you play? When did your career end?
2015.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you stayed at Lithuania the whole time?
Oh no, hell no. I was in a different country every year. Every
Oh,
year
okay. Got you.
I didn't play in the same place twice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just get traded, or you just didn't like the experience and go find something else?
No, actually, neither one. So they don't really trade you over there because every country has its own league. So the same way United States is one country, Lithuania is one country. So each year when that contract's up, a lot of times the team just wants to get a different player. And also depending on the level that you start at, you may want to move up a level or down a level. It depends on the situation. You know, what kind of budgets do teams have? Do you want to be close to home? Maybe you want to go somewhere, maybe in Central or South America, because it's easier to get back to the USA. So it depends on a lot of different factors. So for me, it was just the contract ended and the team was looking for someone else, and I was looking for something else. So every time it was a new situation for me, but which was great for me because it allowed me to see different parts of the world that without basketball, I probably never would have gone to.
Yeah. So did
Yeah.
you stay in Europe, or did you go around the world?
Mostly Europe. So almost everywhere I played was in Europe. Then I played in Mexico, and then I played on a traveling team in the USA. But I never played in Australia. I wanted to, but never got a chance to Australia. Never played in Asia, not Africa, and never in nowhere south of Mexico.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing now in the world? It's people are saying, depending on who you follow, email is dead, video is dead, everything's crowded. I mean, the world, the sky is falling, interest rates are up, it's election year, everybody hates each other. I should just dig a bunker and get out of business because there's no use trying to grow in this environment.
Mm.
Do you kind of hear those messages sometimes?
Sometimes, depending on who I'm listening to. I mean, if you dig deep enough in the recesses
That's
of
why I
it.
don't read the news, right? If you don't read the news, you're uninformed. If you do read the news, you're misinformed. But
Right. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the
digress.
news. I stopped being a fan of the news a long time ago. But as far as, I mean, there are some people who think that way, but I think overall is you got to find your lane. I mean, you got to find your niche. Where are the people who actually want what you're offering to where you can, be successful? And that can be in business. That can be when it comes to your friends and family. That can be your relationships, the material that you personally take in. You just got to find your space where it makes sense for you to have a life that you want, the business you want, the career you want.
How do you know where to focus? I mean, you got a lot going on. Books, keynote speaking, coaching programs. Like if somebody's maybe just getting started. I mean, you talk about find your lane, right? I mean, you can't be everywhere at once when you're starting. And I see too many people, they have too many irons in the fire. And so nothing ever launches. And then they go back to whatever and have a bad attitude about everything. I mean, you didn't start with all these facets. But if somebody's got to put food on the table and they got to find that lane quickly, what would you say to them?
Well, if that person's an entrepreneur, we first of all got to understand. I mean, it's three levels. You got principles, strategies, and tactics. The principles are the things that don't change, and then you have the strategies, which are your plans of action, and you change those rarely. And then you have your tactics, which are very interchangeable. You can change them by the day. So the principle first, if you're an entrepreneur, is that you need to understand your mandate, which is to collect money. That's your mandate as an entrepreneur, is to go and get the money. So we need to figure out if someone's just starting and they need to pay bills, okay, what's the best way, most consistent and most dependable, reliable way that you could collect some money? Let's focus on that. Now let's get you some money so that you have some breathing room and you can relax a little bit. And then we can focus on building out the other pieces of your business that may take a little bit more investment to get going. But you must also always keep your eye on the ball as an entrepreneur, what the most important thing is. The good thing about entrepreneurship is that mandate is really clear. Whereas in other aspects of life, sometimes people don't have that clarity, and that's what leads to confusion and a lot of wasted resources.
Yeah. you're doing your video email outreach, which is how we met. What else are you seeing that's working today as far as outreach that's paying off?
As far as outreach, you mean like to one specific person or just like putting your name out, your message out?
Maybe both. Maybe one to many, right? Because
Yeah.
anybody can do what you did: research, send a personal email, send a personal video.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then as they start to scale, what are you seeing that's working? Because Facebook ads are expensive and complicated and pixels and this, that, and the other, and how do people spread the word effectively and affordably today?
Good question. I was just on a call with my ads guy earlier today. So number one, if you don't like running ads, don't run ads. You find somebody who likes running ads, and then you pay them to run the ads. You just got to watch what they're doing. So I hate running ads. I hate logging into the ad platform. Period. I don't like pixels. I don't like the Facebook ad platform. It's confusing, and I think I'm a pretty smart guy. But I know people who like that stuff and they do it all day. Put them on that job, and you can do that with any aspect of your life, career, or business. So I believe ads do still work, and that word "work" is a relative term, right? Depends on how you run your ads. What are you looking for? What's a win? What's a loss? How much money can you afford to spend? So you got to ask yourself the right questions around your ads if you're going to run ads, so that you know what the right answers are. A lot of times, entrepreneurs, they see people running ads and they get the concept. Okay, maybe I should run ads because that'll help me generate money. It is one of the ways to market yourself online, but you have to ask the right questions and you got to have the right formulas so that you know what works and what doesn't. So you're not just randomly doing stuff just to do it. So ads is a one to many way of getting your name out there. Another way is content. Like right now you have this show. Well, so this is content. This is a form of creating content. The more you put the show out, the more you can build a relationship with the audience of people who listen, and you're making yourself findable for people who haven't heard of you, but now they will hear of you because you put out another episode, and that one might be the one that comes up in their search, and now they go find you. So that's another way is content. And then the other way, third way, is through collaboration. So once I share this episode when it comes out, some people in my audience who know me but don't know you are going to go and listen to this show, and they're going to say, oh, well, let me start listening to Wes's show because I like Dre, and Dre was on Wes's show, and now I like Wes, so let me just add him to the list of people I listen to. So there's collaboration, there's ads, and there's content. And those are the three ways to get your message out there to many people at once. And the biggest thing is you have to be consistent with this stuff, especially with the content and collaborations. You got to be consistent with what you're doing so that the people who may possibly be looking for you could possibly find you. You can be consistent with your ads as well, but also you got to be watching the money with the ads. You got to watch your money and make sure that your ads are doing what they're supposed to do, doing their job. And this is why you either need to understand ads at a high level, or you need to work with someone who does understand it, who can explain it to you, because it's your money you're spending. So you better know what's going on. You're going to run ads.
Yeah. Do you have a process for finding good people? Because finding an assistant can be good or bad. I've had individuals, I've had agencies, I've had ad individuals, I've had agencies. I'm glad you mentioned, hire someone and keep your eye on them. That's the key in any of these. But how do you find good people, affordable people that you can trust with any of these aspects?
Good question. So when it comes to hiring staff, let's say someone who's just going to work for you personally, is the good brief. That's what in the design world they call it the brief, or the what do they call it? The consulting world. The brief is just you laying out, here's who I am, here's what I got, here's what I need, here's what I'm looking for. The more clear and precise and detailed the brief, the higher the quality of people who are going to respond to the brief. So I remember when I went on Fiverr and I was hiring someone to make some artwork for me, some graphic design work. And he said to me, hey, I appreciate this brief because I get a lot of people who hire me and they don't know what they want. But you knew exactly what you wanted. You were able to describe it in words, and it makes my job easy. That's the same thing you want to do when it comes to hiring. So whenever I hire people, I am very detailed in terms of my job description, who I'm looking for, what the job is like, what's going to be expected of you, what you need to bring to the table. And that filters a lot of people out so that the people who do respond are high quality individuals, and then we can filter through them, but it's not so many of them. So that's the first thing when it comes to hiring someone directly for yourself. When it comes to the advertising, I'm the type of person who I believe you're an expert at what you do. You not only can do it, but you can explain it. So if I'm going to work with an ad person, I'm going to tell them, here are the parameters for what I'm looking for. I'll give you $100 to play with. You show me what you can do. I need you to show me what you can do, produce results, and I need you to explain it to me. And if you can't explain it to me, I can't hire you. Because if I'm going to trust you to control the money that's going out, you got to be able to explain to me exactly what you're doing, how you did it, why you did it, and why it worked. And if you can't, then I can't hire you, because I can't take risks with this money. I mean, we're not Amazon. We don't have an unlimited budget, right? There's a limit to this budget. So you got to make that make sense. So that's what I would say to in any type of like an ads person, an outside independent contractor. As far as agencies, I'm not a big fan of agencies personally. I'm not a big fan of hiring agencies because in my experience, agencies, and just by looking at it logically, this is not a knock on anybody who has an agency. I don't even know if you have an agency, Wes, but in my experience, agencies are looking for their next client more than they're looking to service the client they already have. Their business model is, we want to get a bunch of clients and have them all under our wing. I'd rather have one person who has me as their client, like one individual person, because I don't like to have to reach out to an agency and then this person has to talk to that person and you got to go through the help desk and there's 3 layers of people before you get to the person you need to talk to. I don't like all that, because then I'm just a number to the agency. I don't want to be that. And if I'm putting my money up, then I'm going to have things the way that I want it.
Yeah, I'm just an agency, so I got to delete this whole podcast, man. Yeah, I've had the same experience, the same belief. It's like, holy crap, man! Just people make me crazy sometimes talking to them, but we won't go there. All right, we're going to be happy. This is the Happy Sales Podcast.
Right.
So, well, let's talk about what you got going on. WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. Who is that for?
That is for top 2% performers, people who either are or want to be top 2% performers at what they do. That's whether through your mindset, through your performance, through the money that you make, but you're a high level person. Right? I come from the professional sports world. We are the top 2%, maybe even 1% of people in what we do. And all I did with Work on Your Game and the university was extract the mindset and strategic tools to help athletes reach the top of that game. And we teach that same thing to business professionals and entrepreneurs. So that's what we're looking for, people who either are there already and they want to stay up there, or people who want to get there and you're going to put the work in order to do it. So that's what we're looking for.
Very cool. So, how to have an unbreakable, bulletproof mindset and a strategy and system for continuous growth without watching another year go by in stagnation and feeling like you're going nowhere. Is that it?
That's a good headline. Did I write that? Yeah, that's good. I haven't looked at that page in a while. Yeah, it's good.
I like it. And so is this, all right, here we go. Live coaching call, success path, community, monthly masterclass. Very cool. And there you are. Schedule your game session here. So how long have you been doing these types of communities and coaching?
The first coaching client I ever had, I got in maybe 2015. Used to be this app called Periscope. You remember Periscope?
Oh yeah, on Twitter.
Yeah, it was independent first, then Twitter bought it, and then they kind of killed it. So I used to do the live streams on Periscope every day, and somebody just left a comment once and said, "Hey, do you offer coaching?" And at the time, I had never coached anybody, but I said yes, and he emailed me. He became my first client, so I charged him $500. So he was my first coaching client. And from there, my focus then was I was doing books, courses. I added in the coaching. I was doing speaking. So then around 2020, when there were no speaking gigs for a minute with the COVID, I started pivoting to doing more in-house stuff. And that's when I really started to focus on what now is Work on Your Game University.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I am linking there, and from there we can find you everywhere else, right?
Yeah, there in any social app anybody's on, I'm easy to find. All my profiles are public, just my name on all of them. So
okay,
hardest person to not find.
Yep. Very cool. I will be linking out to that as well. Very cool, man. You ever get to the West Coast?
Yes, I was in LA last March. I'm in Vegas at least once a year. I got one of my best friends. He's in Oregon. He's a basketball coach. So I'll be out there probably next month, as a matter of fact. Me and a couple of college teammates, we always get together every year. And he currently is in Oregon, so we'll go out there to go to his game. But wherever he's coaching, we go to a couple games. So, yeah.
We should do like a basketball jiu-jitsu mindset conference. What do you think? I mean, it'll be niche, but that would be fire.
As long as I don't have to do any actual athletic stuff. I don't know anything about jiu-jitsu, and I don't play basketball anymore. So as long as it's just talking.
I bet you still got some game, though. Come on.
I mean, I pretty still got some residue game, but I'm not in game shape. That's the I still work out, just not basketball. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out, man. I'll have my people get in touch with your people.
Yeah, we can make it happen. How about you do the physical part and I'll do the mindset part?
Well, I haven't had basketball games since 1986.
Oh, wow.
So but that's why we need the jiu-jitsu part, so you can like grab them and choke them if they're running away from you. That would help.
I go to the boxing gym, but you're not allowed to choke in boxing. Okay.
All right. You're not allowed to punch in jiu-jitsu. So
well, yeah.
It's going to be a well-rounded event, man. Basketball, striking, grappling, mindset. It'll be good.
All right. It's a good idea. We can work with it. Figure it out.
All right, man. Well, Dre Baldwin, all the way from Miami. Thanks for making some time, man. It's great catching up with you. I'm glad you made that personal video and reached out.
Well, thank you, Wes. I appreciate you sharing your platform, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, my pleasure, man. Have a great day. So I'm sitting here listening to this interview again. I'm wondering, why is my voice so low? Because I'm so rusty. Ugh, I think the microphone was wrong. All of these audio, all these apps, good grief. Zoom, I'm on Sessions I've been using. I do Google Meet with some clients. Every time the settings change. They change the audio input and output. So if you can figure out a plug-in to make the audio stay the same, you'll make $1 million. So let me know. All right. But I hope you like that. Dre's a good dude, straight shooter. I love his approach. All day Dre. He's been entrepreneurial pretty much from the beginning, right? And just stayed with it. Continues to expand. Continues to be a product of the product, right? He does what he tells you to do. He practices what he preaches. I recommend you do the same. Need some help? Hit me up. Go to 12weekstopeak.com. That's a free self-guided, self-discipline exercise you can go through. Private group, you can ask questions and engage. You can join the inner circle. Head over to thesaleswhisper.com and check out the different tools. You can pick my brain. I've got a 90-minute option now for you. I've got a little more in-depth. I call it the IPA, Initial Process Assessment. And I'm working on a copywriting offering, so stand by for that. All right. Other than that, thanks for listening. Glad to be back. I'll go sell something.